Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our course preview for this week's Genesis Invitational. I know we just saw Torrey Pines a few weeks ago, but want to give everyone a refresher on what to expect this week because it'll be the South Course for all 72 holes. So here we're going to go through some of the course details, some of the averages that we saw from a few weeks ago, as well as my custom modeling and key stats that I'm using to help identify some of my top plays. We're going to keep this one a little bit quicker because of how recently we saw this place. Let's go ahead and hop right on in. Players are going to have the tougher of the two golf courses out there for all 4 rounds this time around. So unlike the Farmers where you have the North for one of the first few days, it's going to be South Course for all 4 this time around. So it's 7,800 yards, going to play even longer this year because of some of the recent rains that they've gotten. So the 7,800 yard golf course could be playing over 8,000 yards. That combined with the fact you've got small greens around this venue, also greens that are among the most difficult to putt around the PGA Tour, and that's why it played nearly 2 strokes over par just a few weeks ago. Now the wind had a lot to do with that, so the weather forecast is going to be something that we have to monitor out there before lock. But if it's going to play a little softer, perhaps a slightly higher green regulation rate, but it's going to play extremely long off the tee, so that's going to add an extra challenge of its own. In terms of your agronomy, that of course isn't going to change out there from just a few weeks. You're going to have the pure POA greens over there at the South Course, and you have the ryegrass overseed on top of your natural kikuyu grass that you have at this part of the country. So it was already 4 inches a few weeks ago. I imagine that they haven't cut it all that much since tournament time, and with all the rain that they've gotten and that they're expecting on Wednesday and Thursday this week, it could be even more substantial than what we had a few weeks ago. So that rain could be helpful in terms of hitting some greens, but the ball striking test off the tee could be a lot different this time around. In terms of your averages from a few weeks ago, we've got this up from this year's Farmers. Your fairway rate went way down because of the firmer conditions. That'll probably be closer to what we usually see around here, typically closer to a 55 to 56% fairway rate. Your green regulation average was also a hair lower than what we're used to seeing. In the signature field this time, you're going to see a slightly higher talent level, so I expect that to go up on its own, but with all that rain, it might also go up because of the receptiveness of the greens. So I think these averages both going to go up a little bit, but more so when it comes to that green regulation average. Your scrambling rate might not change all that much. There's always a bunch of 3 putts that you have around this golf course, so these averages I wouldn't expect to change all that much. Your birdie average will go up slightly with the better field strength, but your bogey average, if they set it up difficult, they leave that 4 or 5 inch rough, that one might not change very much. So the golf course, I'm not expecting to change identity all that much. I really think that rain on Wednesday, Thursday is the only thing that can throw us off. So in terms of our averages, a lot of the analytics over here on Bet the Number, they're going to be especially valuable, and the golf course that we saw from a few weeks ago isn't going to change that much in terms of its identity. It is a bomber's paradise. You hit a bunch of drivers around this golf course. It also skews towards your middle to longer irons when it comes to your approach distribution, and your putting is a lot more difficult at this golf course than what we're used to seeing. So when we head over here to the custom modeling, it's hardly going to change out there from the Farmers. In fact, for right now, I'm just using my Farmers model and adapting it to the field that we have this time around. So just like a few weeks ago when you were looking at ball striking poppers, I've got those guys towards the top of my modeling this week. So you can see some of your top performers in that category. You get Scotty, Rory at the top, but then Victor, look at that, on a little bit of a comeback train of his own. Guys like Pendrith, Spahn, we know the kind of form that they've been in, but Gary Woodland's really hitting his rock well lately. Lucas Glover, then also, of course, a Sepp Straka up there towards the top of that list. Carry distance was something that we were looking at as well, with how long the golf course is, particularly with that 4 inch rough. With the rain that they've gone, this is going to be an even bigger factor. So, this is just our BTN model out here from the Farmers. When I go to build mine for this week, I'm going to increase the weight over here on carry distance. Some of your top players in that category would be a Pendrith, Clark, Thomas Dietrich, who of course worked himself into this field. But guys like a Tony Finau, Burns, Cantlay, Batia, and Hovland all rank out very well. And just to kind of point out guys that also were ball striking it well, you got Victor Hovland, dark green in the ball striking and carries it a long way. And then of course Taylor Pendrith, who is elite in both categories. Approach from 175 to 275, to kind of go back to the approach distribution, that's where a vast majority of your shots are going to come from. So players that are good in that proximity bucket are going to get a boost in my modeling as well. So guys like McNeely, Echeverria, Rasmus, Glover, and Hubbard, all going to see a little bit of a boost out there in my projections. Around the green, I'm actually toning down a little bit with the softer conditions. So it was something that was a little bit of a bigger factor because of the firmer conditions at the Farmers. But if they get some rain and that green and regulation average goes up a little bit from, let's say, like 60% up there to 65, 66%, it's just going to take away from around the green a little bit. So it'll still be in my modeling, just a little bit less important. Perhaps some of that weighting that I'm taking away will be going over there to that carry distance stat as I talked about before. We do have these POA greens, and the key proximity bucket is from 4 to 12 feet with only the 5,000 square foot greens. Those are exceptionally small out there for the PGA Tour average. So players that have been putting well on the POA greens recently, which by the way, we've had a few weeks sample size on now that we've been on this West Coast swing. We've got guys like Sungjae Im, Pavon, who also putted really well at this golf course when he won back there in 2024. But guys like Dietrich, Bazane, Sam Burns, Hoagie, Batia are all going to see a bonus there as well. And of course, Batia was also a guy who popped with the carry stat. Same thing with the Sam Burns popping in multiple categories. And that's what we're looking for in players. No one's going to check every box that we're looking for, but if we can find players that pop in 3 or 4 categories, that's really where you can find some of your top plays. Bogey avoidance, always important at a difficult track like this. Maybe a little bit less so with the softer conditions, but we'll have to see with the course report whether we need to change that. Even if it is going to play softer, bogey avoidance will be important at a strategic golf course like what we have here at Torrey. Par 5 scoring is where a vast majority of your birdie looks are going to come from. Because the birdie average is only about 3 per round, when you're going out there trying to get to something like 10 to 15 under, you have to take advantage of those par 5s to have a chance. And because you have 4 of them in play this week, you're going to have plenty of opportunities to go out there and do so. So guys that pop there would be a Pendrith, Grayson, Billy Horschel up there towards the top. Same thing with guys like a Tony Finau or a Ben Griffin, get significant bumps in that category. And the last one we'll go through will be the 3-putt percentage, because with these really tough greens, you're going to have a lot of 3-putts. But because it's going to be a little softer, I think the greens might be a little slower because of the moisture they're getting. I don't know if it's as big a factor. So kind of like you had there with the around the green, I'm not going to be incorporating this category nearly as much, and may add some of that over there to my par 5 scoring. May add it to that 175 to 275 range, as I think it's going to be a huge ball striking test this week. So if we just take the model from a few weeks ago and adapt it to this field, Scotty Scheffler's number 1 as you would expect, but Pendrith with the popping across multiple categories is up there towards the top. Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, all these ball strikers that we'd hope to see, they're up there in the top 10 of our model. And even guys like a Novak that have been really striping it, Aaron Rai, who plays well at these grinded out ball striking fests, you would have hoped to see towards the top end of the list. And it's good to see that, the logic test is bared out here as well, right? It's not just all your recent form guys that are piling up here towards the top end of the board. It's your recent form guys and your historical ball strikers, which is exactly what we are hoping to find. So hopefully it gives you guys an idea of some of the modeling that you can do this week, but it hasn't really changed all that much from a few weeks ago. I want to go over real quickly a few comp courses with you as well. So the API with the real difficult ball striking test is something that I'm using as a comp. It is a signature event this year. It was last year as well, so you have the same kind of field strength. And because it's going to play softer this time around, it's actually going to be a lot more like the API, which it's down here in Florida. They try and make it as firm and fast as possible, but you always get a lot of rain this time of year down here, so it can't really play firm and fast over there at the API. So it's a hard ball striking test. You have that long rough, long golf course as well. I think it's an even better comp now after that rain. You also have Murfield Village and the Memorial. That was a comp that we used the last time around. One of the hardest tracks that we have on the PGA Tour, long rough, demanding off the tee. That was another reason to look at that track. And then the Quail Hollow Club as well, which is the home of the Wells Fargo Championship historically, will be the home of a few major championships coming up. But what you'll see here is that it's another long course off the tee, nearly 7,700 yards. That really leans into your long players off the tee, your long iron players, your guys that can go out there and score on the par 5s. A lot of the things that we looked at in our custom modeling, we're also looking over there at the Quail Hollow Club. So it was also a comp course that we mentioned a few weeks ago that I'm incorporating into this week. So if you guys are looking for ways to find your top end players, these key stats would be a really good way to go out there and find them, as well as some of these comp courses in that leaderboard crossover. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the course breakdown this week. Like I said, wanted to keep it a little bit briefer as we did see this place just a few weeks ago, but a little refresher for everyone out there. Go ahead, smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the content to come, which will include our DFS and betting preview dropping on a little bit later on this evening, so you won't want to miss any of that, including my top plays of the week, as well as our Wednesday live stream at 7 p.m. Eastern time, going over any of your questions down in the live chat. So best of luck with all the exposure that you guys are going with, and also down in the comments, I want to hear what you guys have as the winning score this week for a chance to earn a free month on my Patreon page. On my Patreon is where I post all my projections, all my extra analysis that don't make it here to YouTube, and literally my modeling and projections for every single player that is teeing it up. And for a chance to earn that free month of the Patreon page, all you have to do is give me that winning score. Now, the added caveat is that it's on a first come, first serve basis. So once a score is taken once, that is taken. It cannot be taken again. So early bird gets the worm. Go ahead, claim your score down below. But best of luck with whatever exposure that you're getting to, whether it is that giveaway or over there with your bets or DFS. Hopefully you go out there and kill it, and we can make this signature event one of our better events of the year.